Folks, welcome to the Craig Bushon Show. Sitting here today with Agricultural Commissioner Todd Staples, and it is a position that many of you don't even understand unless you're now seeing in the macro world where you're seeing a $500 billion that's going to be going towards this national agricultural bill. But I want to welcome you to the program.
Thank you, Craig. It's good to be with you and excited to talk about the issues impacting our lives today.
Absolutely. And real quick for the folks, you know, when you say ag, you know, not an Aggie, by the way, folks, but an agricultural commissioner, what is the job that you have to do every day?
Well, as Commissioner of Agriculture in Texas, it's a statewide elected position. It's only about 12 ag commissioners in the nation that are actually elected, have to stand before the people and talk to them about what our vision is for our state. It's really about economic development and job creation at the end of the day. We have a very broad set of responsibilities, from ensuring that consumers get every ounce of gasoline that they pay for at the pump, to marketing of Texas products, just a host and variety of challenges that we have.
And it's interesting because I was watching some of the videos of you online, for example, and a lot of folks, they find programs like this just searching the web. Mm-hmm. And you know, the border issue today, I reached out, just so you know, folks, to the commissioner to talk about the border issue, what's going on, battleground Texas, and also you're running for an office. Tell the folks about that. I mean, you're not satisfied with just being here. You want to go somewhere else. Tell the folks where that is and why you want to do it.
Well, I love being Commissioner of Agriculture, but I am running for Lieutenant Governor of Texas, and the real reason why is because Texas is in a state of transition. We do have an element that the Obama political machine that has moved to Texas. Their vision is higher taxes, bigger government, and to perpetuate a culture of dependency that unfortunately has resonated with voters all across America. The battle line is here. Texas has been a state that has understood the value of keeping taxes low, having a fair regulatory environment. I want the Texas of tomorrow to be a prosperous state, not to look like the California or the Washington, D.C. of today, but with the current political environment. And the message that this president continues to perpetuate, this redistribution of wealth, this sense of entitlement, we need to remind Americans that the American dream is very much alive. Upward mobility is possible. It doesn't matter your last name or what your zip code happens to be. It's how hard you want to work. Do you want to be honest? My father worked in a glass factory for 36 years. He always challenged us to get up, to work hard, to be honest, to get an education. And in America, that's alive today. But it's being threatened by these policies that really are crippling our nation. Recently in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article entitled "How America Lost Its Way." Mm-hmm. It should be very alarming to every citizen of this great nation, because what it talks about is the Doing Business Report, and it talks about the Global Competitiveness Index and how we have declined in the global economic environment and how other countries are outpacing us. And it's because policymakers have forgotten that small and medium businesses are the real job creators.
Right. I think the issue that we have, when I look at the landscape and I look at all the issues that we face as citizens, you mentioned education. You know, we're about $1 trillion in debt in upper education in this country, and now we have roughly 8% of those people aren't even paying it back at all. They're uncollectible, and that number is growing. We're now becoming the most overeducated, unemployed nation in the world. We're actually funding other students from other parts of the world to come here, and the government funds it, and then in the end, less money goes to the American citizen or to the Texan. Right. And jobs are a big issue, and then it rolls right into battleground Texas. And what's interesting, folks, you need to know this. When I go around and I talk with people, so many of you do not even know that battleground Texas exists. And it is this, for anyone who's a conservative, mm-hmm. okay, and then you could put Republican after that, you could put Libertarian after that, you could put Tea Partier. Mm-hmm. Those people are all conservatives. And what do they need to know about battleground Texas? Why is it such a big deal? What is it that we need to do to defend ourselves, in your opinion, so we don't get this wave of blue coming over? Because their goal is by 2018 to turn this state Blue.
And I think you could even have that a little sooner than that.
Yeah.
In 2016, you're going to start seeing some pockets change. I really think what people need to understand is that for too many years in our nation, the expectation if there is a problem, you look to government to solve that problem. And when government grows, it effectively squeezes out any other institution from its proper place and its proper role. When government grows, you squeeze out families from making decisions and promoting individual responsibility. When government grows, you chase out faith-based organizations from their proper role. So that's a perpetuation of what has been happening around our nation. Many people look at Texas and say, you're a solid red state. We're proud of that.
Sure.
We're very glad of the fact that we are a conservative
Except
state.
for Austin, where we're at right now.
We're in the sea of a speck of blue right here.
Yeah, big blue domino.
But the reality is, it's the reason it's a red state. I want to very upfront. It's not because of any elected official. Mm-hmm. It's because of men and women who raise their families, work hard every day, and make certain that government is accountable. If government loses its way, Texans will rein it back in. But all that's in flux, and the reason why it is because we have 1,000 people a day moving to the Lone Star State. We have changing demographics in our state that are very real. We're ushering in a new generation of voters, and we have to educate them about what it means to be a part of a free market enterprise system. We have to educate them about individual responsibility and being responsible for yourselves and your own family and not becoming dependent on bigger and more expansive government. And that's the real crisis that we face in this state, and it is very real. We know that it is because we saw what happened in Ohio. We looked and see what is happening in Colorado, where that legislature is usurping the Second Amendment
they're
rights.
talking about splitting into a North and South. It's like the Dakotas. I mean, and some of these people are serious about this. That's how upset people are today about what they see as this republic, this representative republic, where we send the servants of the people to go do the best for the people who put them there. And in the end, we've kind of lost, it seems, our foundation. You know, you can go all the way back to the founding of this country, right? Mm-hmm. And you look at the Declaration of Independence, which was our sovereignty paperwork against King George III, right? That we will not give up our guns, we will not give up our land, and we will not be taxed to death. We will become our own nation, and then we got the help by the French and others, but the reality is we're a sovereign nation. I want to push you towards the border a little bit. The conversation there is serious. Okay, we hear this back and forth. We have these worlds colliding where you'll hear some people in the state of Texas government and also in Washington, D.C. say, oh, we can't lock down the border, we can't control the border, it's just too vast, it's too big. And then others say, yes, we can, let's get it done yesterday. What is your opinion on the fix of the border? Because here's what I look at when it comes to the border. The running of guns is a symptom. The drug trafficking is a symptom. Obviously, illegal activity coming across the border, whether it's people getting jobs or whatever it is a symptom of a bigger problem. Having a porous border, and some would argue, not a sovereign border anymore.
Very clearly not a sovereign border anymore when you look at the numbers and how porous that border actually is. You notice when we started today and you asked me what does Commissioner of Agriculture do, I did not list border security as one of those issues.
Right. But going for Lieutenant Governor,
well,
that would be a big issue.
But even more so than that, as Commissioner of Agriculture, standing up for landowners is what I do. Protection of private property owner rights. We know that those rights become eroded through a series of bad laws, loopholes in the law. We know those get exploited in court cases. And so I have a history of standing up for landowners. A couple of years ago, I was reached out to by these same landowners that live and work and farm and ranch and raise families on the Texas-Mexico border. Texas has 2/3 of our entire nation's southern border, and we have the second highest population of undocumented immigrants. Being reached out to by those landowners, they said, look, we're being chased off our property. We have people that literally ancestors of those that settled that part of our country who are afraid to let their children go on their own property. That's not my vision for America. Being reached out to by those individuals, I thought, well, this is easy. You know, I was raised in East Texas. Democrats and Republicans fought often, but it usually wasn't over law enforcement and guns. We and that part of our state recognized how important a strong law enforcement is. So I reached out asking for additional assets, additional resources to protect people on their own property right here in the United States of America. This is not talking about what's going on in Mexico. We're talking about what's going on in our country. I was rebuffed. I was ridiculed for bringing these issues forward. President Obama's Homeland Security Secretary continuously says the border is safer than ever. She said in El Paso or California recently, the border is a safe border, directly in conflict with what our landowners are telling us. So I started a website called protectyourtexasborder.com, where landowners could tell their story in their own terms and not rely on the national media to do that for them. I reached out to 2 retired generals, retired General Barry McCaffrey, 4-star, retired Major General Bob Scales, 2-star, former commandant of the U.S. Army War College. We asked them to do a strategic assessment of the Texas border, and they said in no uncertain terms, the cartels are seeking to gain a foothold in the United States of America. Recently, a Mexican drug cartel attorney was killed in South Lake, Texas, right outside of Fort Worth. The Chicago Crime Commission earlier this year designated someone as public enemy number 1, Craig, the first time that's been done in 80 years. That was done in 1933, and that was Al Capone. The second time they gave such a designation, it was to El Chapo Guzman, the kingpin drug lord for the Sinaloa cartel based in Mexico. That's how porous our border is.
Well, a lot of people would look at, I believe words mean something.
Absolutely.
And they carry a weight, they carry a value. And if I'm that farmer, I've met with many farmers who have ranches down the border, and where they've called local sheriff's department and said, listen, there's people out there, they may be on a lease or something, and they're out there saying there's somebody here that we don't recognize. The sheriff will come in, see who they are, go back, and this is eyewitness accounts. The very people who own the property told me this, that they actually were there, and then they were asked by the sheriff to leave because they could not protect them because that's the cartel. And then, so here's an American citizen and a Texan on sovereign land in the United States of America that they cannot go on their own property because there's other people squatting on it doing things that they shouldn't do. So do they look at that person as an undocumented person or an illegal? I believe they're an illegal. The words mean something in the tenor, in the court systems, whether I'm talking to Greg Abbott or I'm talking to a local judge in Williamson County here. Those words mean something when we're trying to take our justice system. If they're undocumented or they're illegal, the illegal part is what really carries the weight, in my opinion.
Right. Well, you really hit the nail on the head when you say that words mean something. Because when our administration says the border is safer than ever, what that signals is a message to the drug cartels that we're satisfied with the status quo.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's the message that they're hearing. And that only emboldens and empowers them to be more aggressive and to be more flagrantly violating the laws of this great nation. We're getting hung up on those words in efforts to soften what's said. There's nothing soft about having a porous border and the sovereignty of our nation. Now, I believe, Craig, we need to be pro-legal immigration.
Sure, absolutely.
We need to be welcoming as a nation. I want us to continue to be a country where people want to flock to from all over the world to be a part of the best economy, the best opportunity to better yourself and to provide a good life for your family. But we have to send the right message in doing that. But what's going on in Washington today with talk of false metrics to secure this border only means that others can come through undetected. I've been told by landowners and law enforcement alike, since this is really ramped up in Washington, people have been flooding across the border. And for law enforcement, this really should alarm all Americans. What the drug cartels are doing, they will send people looking for a job through one part of the county. They will call all the law enforcement, people are on my land. All the law enforcement descends on those people that they send through looking for jobs, and then they will move the drugs.
Bait and switch.
Absolutely. Oldest trick in the book.
Yeah.
You have to respond to it. We don't have enough boots on the ground for one thing. We have 18,500 Border Patrol along our southern United States border. Even Aggie math will tell you you have about 1 million people a year trying to gain access. In FY 2012, the CBP apprehended 365,000 seeking to gain access to our country illegally. Almost half of those were apprehended in Texas. In FY 2012, 1.7 million pounds of narcotics were confiscated, 40% of our nation's total, 300,000 more pounds than in California, Arizona, and New Mexico combined. Now you're thinking, we have 2/3 of our border. Maybe that's why we have so much that's happening here. But here's a bigger reason. California, Arizona, and New Mexico have about 14 border agents per border mile. Texas has barely over 6. We are having to fund, as Texas taxpayers, and we will have through the end of this fiscal year, about $500 million fulfilling what is a federal government's responsibility outlined in Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution. And yet our federal government says the border is safer than ever.
Well, and again, folks, if you just tuned in, we're here today with Commissioner Todd Staples. Yes, he is the Agricultural Commissioner for the state of Texas, but also running for Lieutenant Governor. And very important position, very powerful position. State of Texas, in that position is you have a lot of responsibility. Border is one of those issues. We're talking about battleground Texas, and you need to look more into that. You'll see things right on my site, driving you right to how you can get educated on the battleground. You know, and we only have a couple minutes left, and again, I thank you so much for coming on today and opening up your office and your wonderful staff to us. But so in the end, to the folks, the average American out there who's looking at, you know, when people come through the border, some of those people end up in Omaha, Nebraska, Chicago, Illinois,
Absolutely.
New York City, and they're running, and the guns end up there, and the drugs end up there. So we are, as Texas goes, and I would say Arizona also,
Sure.
those two big front lines, as they go, so goes the rest of the nation.
What's happening on our southern border in Texas is not just a Texas problem. It is a national security breach. I got so fed up with the frustration of dealing with the federal government, I wrote a book about it called Broken Borders, Broken Promises. I'd like to give you a copy. I outline what I think the appropriate steps are to secure our border. And I will say this. If we have 1 million people a year trying to gain access to our country, we need a legal way for individuals to be a part of the economy of this great nation. And if people are coming through legally, then we can target our resources and go after the drug cartels. We can do this in a conservative way. We do not need to compromise conservative principles and conservative philosophy to solve this problem. And I talk about it in Broken Borders, Broken Promises. When I look at our nation today and I think about battleground Texas, I know our national party spent about $10 million on a study on how to reinvent themselves. I don't think conservatives need to reinvent ourselves. I believe we need to rededicate ourselves to the principles that has built the best economy this world has ever seen. We need to focus on keeping our taxes low, having a regulatory environment that is fair and just and predictable. And we need to recognize that every time government grows, we're squeezing out families, churches, communities from fulfilling their role.
I completely agree with you. Your statement when you said about Republicans thinking that they need to change. Not all of them. Many of them now are thinking, we need to go back to our foundation. The original third party, the party that beat the Whigs, the party that freed the slaves, the party that freed American citizens of all color, all ranks, all backgrounds to live the American dream. We, the people, especially that have an R after our name, have allowed our party to be infiltrated by people who don't have that. So part of the thing that we have to battle is ourselves too. We have to make sure that we are getting the right people in office,
Right.
that aren't just saying the things they need to say, but then actually get in and do it. That's the key. That's why I believe we have so many people not showing up to the polls that should, because they don't believe in the messenger.
And they've been given plenty of examples for not to believe in the messenger.
That's exactly right.
I mean, 90% of the politicians give the other 10% a bad name. There's no doubt about that. But people have to stay engaged. They have to fight for what they believe in. And Battleground Texas is an apt name because this is a fight.
That's right.
This is a fight for our values. This is a fight for our philosophy. We have a middle class in America. Many countries don't have that. And we have policies that like the socialist EU countries that have a 27% unemployment rate. What kind of plan is that for the middle class? That's because they believe in every time there's a crisis, raise taxes, spend more from the government without allowing the private sector to solve these things that only takes away more and more taxpayer dollars. And we have a bright future in this great state, but we do have a challenge. And we do have a come and take it flag. Texans believe in what we have, but it's up to individual, everyday Texans to stand up and to fight for this state and to make certain we have an influence in the course and the path of this great nation.
Well, there you have it, folks. You know, it's up to you to decide. All I can do is bring you the information. Be First in Media, that's what it's about. It's about getting you the first-hand information. You know, you don't have to wait for some pundit to give it to you. Go right to the source. And then it's up to you to do your own research, to do your homework, to invest the time into understanding what we're talking about today, because it's a serious issue. And I will read your book. And I look forward to meeting with you again. I'll read it. I'll get back with you. I know as the race gets a little more heated up within the for the lieutenant governor position for the office, we'll come back. We'll talk with you again. I'm sure there'll be some other issues that we'll talk about. But I want to thank you so much for coming on today.
Craig, good to be with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for what you do.
And there you have it, folks. Go, remember, Be First in Media. We have launched the Be First in Media Battleground Texas War Department. Pamphlet's right there. You can check it out. And we'll see you soon, folks. Thanks so much.